The intelligence report lay spread across the mahogany desk. March 1943 brought bitter cold to Berlin. Albert Speer stared at the document in his vast office overlooking the capital. The Reich Minister of Armaments had seen countless reports. This one felt different. The letterhead read Abwehr. The subject line mentioned an American manufacturing facility called Willow Run. Production estimates filled the pages. Numbers that seemed impossible. One 4-engine bomber every 63 minutes. Speer's architect mind began calculating automatically. His hands started shaking. Not from shock, from comprehension. Unlike the zealots surrounding Adolf Hitler, Speer understood mathematics. He grasped logistics. He saw patterns in numbers that others missed. While Goebbels and Himmler lived drunk on ideology, Speer remained coldly rational. The notepad beside him filled with calculations. Each figure confirmed his worst fears. The conclusion hit him like physical pain. Germany had already lost this war, but speaking such truth would mean execution. Defeatism carried a death sentence in the Third Reich. What followed would be 2 years of elaborate pretense, 2 years of believing publicly in victory, while knowing privately it was impossible. 2 years of mathematical certainty wrapped in forced silence. Speer represented something unusual in Hitler's inner circle. Pragmatism existed where fanaticism ruled. Efficiency thrived among political chaos. He joined the Nazi Party young, drawn by architectural ambitions rather than racial hatred. Grand building projects appealed to his creative mind. Anti-Semitic theory did not. Hitler valued Speer precisely because competence mattered more than ideology to the architect-turned-minister. Results spoke louder than political theater. Speer delivered what others only promised. He spoke production language that Hitler desperately needed as warfare consumed resources. Fritz Toth's plane crash in February 1942 created an opportunity. Speer inherited control of the entire German war economy at 36 years old. The position came with impossible challenges. Multiple fronts stretched German resources beyond breaking points. The Soviet Union possessed more territory, more people, more raw materials than Germany could ever match. Then, America entered the conflict. Hitler's declaration of war after Pearl Harbor awakened a sleeping industrial giant. Modern warfare had become industrial warfare fundamentally. Bravery mattered less than production capacity. Generals mattered less than factory output. Early 1943 revealed grim arithmetic everywhere Speer looked. Bombing raids targeted German factories daily. Raw materials grew scarce rapidly. Synthetic fuel production couldn't meet demand. The Eastern Front devoured equipment faster than replacement production. Speer worked frantically to rationalize manufacturing systems. Nazi corruption and ideological stupidity strangled efficiency at every turn. Then Abwehr intelligence assessments started arriving regularly. American industrial capacity reports seemed impossible initially. The numbers looked inflated beyond belief. But Speer did something others wouldn't. He checked the mathematics carefully. He cross-referenced data sources. He consulted industrial experts privately. Horror crept over him gradually. The Americans weren't exaggerating anything. They were understating their capabilities significantly. The Willow Run assessment broke something inside him. Multiple readings couldn't change the figures. Ford Motor Company applying automobile mass production to 4-engine bombers. Eventually, one B-24 Liberator every hour. 24 bombers daily, 700 monthly, from a single facility. German heavy bomber production reports lay beside the intelligence. The entire Reich struggled to produce fractions of those numbers. Engineering expertise meant nothing without resources. The Heinkel He-177 represented Germany's primary heavy bomber. Engine fires plagued the aircraft constantly. Technical problems grounded half the fleet. Monthly production reached maybe 30 or 40 across all factories. His notepad filled with devastating comparisons. Willow Run hitting targets meant more heavy bombers monthly than Germany produced yearly. Just bombers represented one category. Reports detailed American fighter production, transport aircraft manufacturing, tank assembly, truck construction, shipbuilding. The scale defied comprehension completely. America was building an industrial avalanche. The Third Reich would be buried underneath it. Silence became Speer's only option. Hitler's regime made pessimism treasonous. Suggesting defeat meant execution for defeatism. Reality itself became dangerous to acknowledge. Fanatical certainty about final victory was required. Alternative thinking marked you as an enemy. Admiral Canaris presented identical reports to Göring and received ridicule. Eastern Front generals warned about Stalingrad and lost commands. The message was unmistakable. Tell Hitler what he wanted to hear, or face consequences. Speer made his choice deliberately. He would maximize German production physically possible. Miracles of efficiency would emerge from organization. But mathematical truth would never reach the Führer's ears. 2 years of calculated deception followed. Public meetings required confidence and determination. Hitler demanded optimism about new weapons, increased output, final victory. Speer mastered delivering good news while burying bad information. Tank production increases came by cannibalizing other critical resources. Wonder weapons projects diverted engineers to V-1 flying bombs and V-2 rockets. Strategic meaninglessness didn't matter. Hitler's fantasies required feeding. Behind the scenes, different calculations occupied Speer's mind. Prolonging Germany's defensive capability served a purpose, not victory, but civilian protection during collapse. Millions of German citizens would suffer when the Reich fell. Cities would burn. Only negotiated peace could prevent total annihilation. American industrial might became impossible to ignore by late 1943. Allied bombers darkened German skies in unprecedented numbers. B-24 liberators from Willow Run arrived by hundreds, then thousands. The strategic bombing campaign Göring promised would never happen systematically dismantled German industry. Speer watched his factories disappear. Ball-bearing plants in Schweinfurt, aircraft factories in Regensburg, synthetic fuel refineries in Leuna. Every raid validated the Abwehr reports completely. American air armadas exceeded impossible scales. The Luftwaffe died trying to stop them. Göring's denial continued maddeningly. Thousands of American bombers filled German airspace daily. The Reich Marshal insisted conditions were temporary. Luftwaffe control would return soon. Cowardly pilots received blame. Saboteurs received blame. Anyone except Göring himself. Catastrophic misjudgments about American capability remained unacknowledged. Hitler performed even worse. Military briefings triggered rages at American production mentions. Jewish propaganda explained everything. Inflated lies designed to demoralize Germans. Generals explaining Allied material superiority faced screaming about German willpower. Secret weapons would turn tides. Allied coalitions would fracture inevitably. Speer endured these meetings in silent agony. Truth was known. War was lost. Additional fighting only increased death tolls. Speaking meant suicide. February 1944 brought Speer's predictions to horrific fruition. Operation Argument launched. Big Week began. Coordinated assault on German aircraft industry aimed for air superiority. 6 days of systematic bombing followed. American and British aircraft, many B-24 liberators from Willow Run, pounded Reich factories. Reports arrived with grim inevitability. Messerschmitt plants in Augsburg and Regensburg devastated completely. Junkers facilities in Bernburg destroyed utterly. Heinkel factories in Rostock burning continuously. 6,000 bomber sorties in less than a week. 20,000 tons of bombs dropped. German aircraft industry lay shattered beyond repair. The Luftwaffe rose to defend and was slaughtered. German fighter pilots, however brave and skilled, faced overwhelming numbers. Every German fighter lost meant no replacement available. Training schools couldn't produce pilots fast enough. Factories couldn't manufacture aircraft fast enough. American losses during Big Week didn't matter strategically. Every bomber lost meant 3 more crossing the Atlantic. Willow Run's production pipeline seemed endless. After Big Week, Speer knew with absolute certainty that Germany had lost control of its airspace permanently. Allied bombers could strike anywhere in the Reich with relative impunity. Factories, fuel plants, transportation networks, everything became targets. Nothing could stop the bombing. Hitler demanded aircraft production restoration after Big Week. Speer provided expected answers: underground factories, dispersed production, German ingenuity. He didn't voice actual thoughts. German aircraft industry had suffered mortal wounds. Industrial systems beyond German matching capability delivered those wounds. Willow Run prophecy from March 1943 had come true. Throughout 1944, Speer watched slow-motion collapse of everything built. Allied bombing grew more intense, precise, devastating. The oil campaign proved catastrophic particularly. May 1944 brought systematic destruction of synthetic fuel plants. September showed fuel production dropped 90%. Tanks sat immobile without gasoline. Aircraft remained grounded. The Luftwaffe barely flew anymore. Desperate production efforts continued. Factories moved underground into caves and tunnels. Manufacturing dispersed across hundreds of smaller facilities. Concentration camp slave labor replaced German workers sent to fight. Everything proved futile. Industrial wars cannot be won when enemies control airspace completely. Americans weren't just outproducing Germany. Production occurred on scales defying comprehension. Intelligence reports on total Allied production revealed staggering numbers. 1944 alone saw United States produce over 96,000 aircraft. Germany, with all Speer's efficiency improvements, managed about 40,000. German planes increasingly looked primitive compared to advanced American designs rolling off Detroit, Seattle, and California assembly lines. Bitter irony emerged from Speer's actual success. German war production increased throughout 1943 and 1944. Tank production tripled. Artillery production doubled. Organizational miracles and efficiency improvements worked perfectly. None of it mattered. Germany drowned under Allied material avalanches. Every German tank faced 5 or 10 Allied tanks. Every German plane faced 20 Allied planes. Industrial warfare mathematics remained immutable. Germany occupied the wrong side of equations. Early 1945 brought cracks to Hitler's delusions. Allies crossed the Rhine. Soviets approached Berlin. No retreat options remained. Still, Speer couldn't speak truth. Hitler issued the Nero Decree ordering destruction of all German infrastructure. Speer quietly sabotaged these orders, preserving what possible for Germany's future. Meetings with Hitler continued the loyal minister charade, nodding along to wonder weapon fantasies. Last-minute counteroffensive dreams. May 8, 1945 brought unconditional German surrender. The Thousand-Year Reich lasted 12 years. Allied forces arrested Speer for interrogation. Finally, for the first time since March 1943, truth could be spoken. American and British intelligence officers received detailed explanations. Willow Run calculations. Early 1943 certainty about mathematical impossibility of victory. Hitler's reality rejection, Göring's catastrophic incompetence, Nazi regime's systematic inability to process contradictory facts. Interrogators pressed hard. Why didn't you tell Hitler? Why didn't you try ending the war earlier? Speer's answer carried chilling honesty. Execution would have followed. Someone less competent would have replaced him. Prolonged defenses might allow negotiated endings. He was wrong. Americans took Speer to see American factories. They wanted him understanding what he had faced. Willow Run plant in Michigan stretched over half a mile long. B-24 bombers rolled off assembly lines every 63 minutes at peak production. Speer walked the facility length in stunned silence. Later, he told interrogators about intellectual understanding versus visual reality. Organization, efficiency, scale proved staggering. Germany never had chances against such capability. Nuremberg trials saw Speer among few Nazi leaders admitting responsibility. War crimes and crimes against humanity convictions followed for slave labor usage. 20 years in Spandau prison. Prison writings included extensive experiences documentation. Early realization about American industrial capacity featured prominently. Inside the Third Reich memoir, published after 1966 release, told full stories. Willow Run report moment in March 1943 described in detail. Understanding Germany had lost. Surreal experiences of 2 years pretending to believe in victory while knowing mathematical reality. Moral failure reflections. Complicity in prolonging wars that killed millions. Post-war record compilation vindicated everything Speer feared. Willow Run alone produced 8,685 B-24 Liberators during operation. United States manufactured over 18,400 total B-24s. Most produced heavy bomber in history. 1940 to 1945 saw United States produce over 300,000 military aircraft. Germany produced approximately 94,000 in the same period. Aircraft represented just one category. American production dominated virtually everything. Tanks, 88,000 American versus 67,000 German. Trucks, 2.4 million American versus 350,000 German. The arsenal of democracy lived up to its name. The Third Reich was buried under mountains of steel. Willow Run factory, dismissed as impossible propaganda by German leaders, produced more four-engine heavy bombers alone than entire German aircraft industry managed during the whole war. The disparity wasn't even close. Albert Speer possessed unique technical knowledge in Hitler's inner circle. March 1943. Calculation showed him Germany couldn't win industrial wars against America. Mathematical certainty existed, but systems existed where truth meant treason. Facts remained subordinate to ideology. Reality itself became negotiable. Albert Speer's tragedy wasn't failing to see truth. Perfect vision existed. Courage to act on knowledge was lacking. True believers like Goebbels didn't exist here. Delusional fools like Goering weren't present. Intelligent, rational men understanding mathematics and logistics occupied this space. Understanding led to inescapable conclusions in March 1943. The war was lost, but Speer calculated differently. Personal survival outweighed potential war shortening. Continued competence in war production management might reduce final death tolls somehow. Reality proved different. Efficiency only prolonged agony. Every tank produced meant more soldiers dying for lost causes. Every aircraft from factories meant more bombing raids, destroyed cities, civilian casualties. The Willow Run report tested Nazi leadership's ability to accept reality rather than German intelligence gathering. Intelligence functioned perfectly. Leadership failed catastrophically. Canaris brought truth and faced dismissal. Speer calculated truth and chose silence. Hitler and Goering denied truth and doomed millions. Albert Speer and Willow Run stories remind us that intelligence without courage proves worthless. Understanding reality means nothing without moral strength for action. Speer spent remaining life presenting himself as the good Nazi, the technocrat following orders, the pragmatist trapped in impossible situations. Truth remained simpler and more damning. March 1943 gave one man in Hitler's inner circle knowledge and credibility to potentially change war courses. Reality confrontation might have saved hundreds of thousands of lives. Mathematical impossibility of German victory could have been acknowledged. That man was Albert Speer. Silence was chosen. Bombers continued rolling off Willow Run assembly lines. one every 63 minutes. American steel avalanches buried the Third Reich. Every calculation Speer made and never spoke aloud was validated. History fills with moments like this. Single decisions, single silences changed everything. Speer and Willow Run show us that catastrophic failures aren't always intelligence or strategy failures. Courage failures exist. Inability to speak truth to power persists, even when millions of lives hang in balance. The most devastating realization came not from enemy action, but from American factory reports, intelligence assessments revealing industrial capacity beyond German comprehension. Numbers that seemed fantasy, but proved conservative estimates. While Hitler raged about wonder weapons and final victories, mathematics told different stories. Cold calculations showed inevitable defeat approaching like unstoppable tides. Speer alone possessed technical background to understand these implications fully. Production expertise separated him from ideological fanatics surrounding the Führer. Engineering knowledge provided clarity others lacked, yet knowledge became prison rather than liberation. Truth could not be spoken without fatal consequences. Reality required constant denial in public settings. The psychological toll of maintaining such deception stretched across 24 months of conscious pretense. Every meeting with Hitler demanded performance. Every production report required optimistic spin. Private moments brought different thoughts entirely. Late-night calculations in empty offices. Mathematical certainty about approaching doom. Industrial avalanches gathering momentum across the Atlantic. American factories worked around the clock. Multiple shifts maintained constant production. Raw materials flowed endlessly from vast continental resources. Meanwhile, German industry struggled with bombed facilities and scarce materials. Slave labor replaced skilled workers sent to die on distant battlefields. Desperate improvisation masked fundamental inadequacies. The contrast grew more stark with each passing month. Allied bombing intensified systematically. Precision targeting eliminated key industrial nodes. Transportation networks crumbled under sustained attack. Speer performed miracles of organization within impossible constraints. Underground facilities protected some production from bombing. Dispersed manufacturing complicated target selection for Allied planners. But temporary solutions couldn't address fundamental problems. German industrial base remained tiny compared to American capacity. Resource limitations prevented meaningful competition. Quality improvements couldn't overcome quantity disadvantages. German engineering excellence produced superior individual weapons. American mass production delivered overwhelming numerical superiority. The mathematics remained immutable throughout the conflict. Industrial warfare favored nations with largest production capabilities. Germany faced multiple enemies with combined resources exceeding German capacity by enormous margins. Every month brought fresh evidence of American industrial acceleration. New factories coming online constantly. Production targets exceeded consistently. Technological improvements implemented rapidly. Willow Run represented just one example among hundreds. Similar facilities operated across American industrial heartland. Detroit, Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles all contributed to growing avalanche. Speer studied these reports with professional fascination mixed with personal horror. Engineering appreciation for American achievements conflicted with understanding of German doom. The irony cut deeply. German industrial techniques had influenced American mass production methods decades earlier. Now, those same techniques, perfected and scaled beyond German imagination, would destroy their originators. Hitler's decision to declare war on America revealed catastrophic strategic miscalculation, awakening sleeping industrial giants while already fighting desperate multi-front wars guaranteed eventual defeat. But acknowledging such strategic errors meant challenging Hitler's infallibility directly. Nazi ideology demanded unwavering faith in Führer's genius. Alternative perspectives constituted treasonous thinking. Speer navigated these contradictions through careful compartmentalization. Public loyalty masked private doubts. Professional competence served regime goals, while personal knowledge revealed their futility. The moral weight of such complicity would haunt him for decades. Efficiency in service of doomed causes multiplied suffering unnecessarily. Prolonged resistance increased casualty totals dramatically. Yet alternatives seemed equally problematic. Honest assessment would have meant execution and replacement by true believers. Perhaps greater competence reduced total damage slightly. Such rationalizations provided cold comfort during post-war reflection. Mathematical certainty about defeat carried moral obligations for action. Knowledge without courage produced tragic consequences. The Willow Run report crystallized all these tensions in a single moment. Technical assessment revealing impossible American capability. Strategic intelligence proving German defeat inevitable. One man possessed knowledge and position to potentially alter history's course. Courage to speak truth might have shortened war significantly. Silence guaranteed prolonged suffering for millions. That choice defined Albert Speer's legacy completely. Brilliant architect, competent administrator, moral coward when courage mattered most. American bombers continued rolling off assembly lines, validating every calculation he had made and never spoken aloud to the one man who needed to hear it most.